let's get into it.
Also, before we end it, make sure you check out the podcast on Spotify so you can listen to this.
Yes.
Wait. So you can listen to this more than one time.
On the train,
mental nutrition.
on the plane.
Mental nutrition.
Feed him.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
End it off, Jay. End it off, Jay.
We done. Get out of here.
Help you break your programming. We'll break that subconscious programming that you see. You have television programming, you have radio programming, you have podcast programming. We're programming where we're giving you positive ideas that will help you be more vital. So we're helping
positive intention, empowering intention.
Empowering intentions. I like that.
Empowering intention.
Empowering intentions.
That's people with limited exposure. Okay, and it could be both at the poorest level of the economic ladder or the richest level of the economic ladder. With limited exposure, you think that there's only one society or one reality.
Welcome to the Vitality Handbook. My name is Yao A. Owusu Jr. I have Nicholas Lopez Jr. with me, Andre Bibbins Jr., and we are together, the Vitality Handbook. Without any further ado, we're back on our pillars. So 5 pillars: mindset, sleep, nutrition, physical recovery, and exercise. Last week was exercise, so this week is mindset. Fellas, we're going to have a conversation on mindset. For me, I was always interested in subconscious behavior, how that can manipulate your vitality, and conscious behavior, how that can manipulate your vitality. We also know what epigenetics is. That's what the pillar system is about. Like I said, without any further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Mindset, consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness. What do you guys have the feeling about?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned unconsciousness. All right. Just a reminder to check out season 1 for the frameworks around the mindset pillar. Okay, but for today, our great host Yao hit us with that range of topics, and basically we're just going to be asking questions or working with each other. But this is unscripted. It's unscripted.
Always.
But it's funny that you mentioned unconsciousness, because I was like, all right, let me just be a good listener. I'm not going to think of my response. I'm just thinking about okay, let me listen. That creates more of a raw kind of feedback. Unconsciousness relative to what's going on today. Okay. I told Dre when I saw him this morning, picked him up. I'm sure you've heard of it in the social sphere, but there's a whistleblower at Facebook, and she basically exposed Facebook for having the internal research that shows that their algorithms that they design creates a negative effect, a negative subconscious effect on kids and their mental health around body image, around with things like eating disorders, with things like body dysmorphia, anorexia. So basically, Facebook ran. I highly recommend you watch that Senate hearing. I'm at the age now. When you get to my age, you enjoy watching Senate hearings. But basically, they go into the very strong details about how Facebook's algorithms basically target kids even under the age of 13, and and basically shift their subconscious mind and attention towards profiles or content.
And these are subconscious, because this is basically programming. That's what subconscious is. You can have programming from a young age. You can have programming from television. You can have programming from Facebook. Obviously, we see that the research is out. I'm interested to go in on that programming and how unconscious programming or even the subconscious programming could affect your life, especially if you're talking about being a vital person. Let's say if you've had a subconscious programming and you're in a bad environment, and that environment, which is epigenetics, will help increase the unconscious ability of eating sugary cereals or not being able to go outside and express yourself creatively because there's too much crime, right? So a lot of these unconscious behaviors come from the subconscious behavior patterns that were made further back in life, right? If we go to a job that we hate, right, and we see that same person that we hate, and we keep on perpetuating that. Whenever you come to the job, now you hate your job, just because you have a pattern of subconscious behavior because of that person that you dislike. That could be someone you dislike at home, someone you dislike in the gym. We have to understand you can reprogram that, and that's what we try and do here at Vitality Handbook, where we're talking about VTS, the Vitality Training System, is reprogramming or retraining your thought patterns, retraining your subconscious, so that behavior can now be, you can now run on conscious behavior, meaning you're in the present. And that's what I really want to focus on for me. I don't know where you guys are going to take the conversation, but being in the present is extremely important when you're trying to level up. And we're talking about, you've seen season 1 and how we've gone through the trials of getting to where we need to. Dre making us looking better and better. We're looking sharp, got to look sharp. And you see your favorite person on Instagram leveling up. And this only happens because of conscious behavior, conscious thought, right? So when we're talking about vitality, guys, which is everything, how can we switch to a conscious behavior? That's what I'm at. That's what I want to kind of focus on. How can we switch from a subconscious pattern that's bad or negative? How can we make that now a good conscious behavior? How can we actually manipulate that?
I'm going to say something real quick about what you said, the subconscious, how cereal, the sugars, and all those things. So the first thing that came to my mind was, you know, and we said it in, I forgot, one of the episodes before, but basically in the minority neighborhoods, whatever you want to call it, right? In those neighborhoods, you get picked on, laughed at, or whatever for eating healthy, right? It's funny. It's like you're lame, you're corny, or you're trying to be something else but what you are. Let's just say it. Something else but black, anything else but black, or minority, whatever, right? I'm just going to cut to the chase with that. I would say that, and just seeing it all the time, right? So, you know, you see someone picking out soda. Everyone around you, as soon as you walk out your building, your apartment, whatever, the first thing you're going to see is the chicken spot. The first thing you're going to see is a liquor store, about 5 liquor stores on one block, right? You know, once you go into that fridge in the corner store, you're going to pull out, nothing in there is organic. They're not going to have anything in there organic. No natural, nothing at all, right? So we're basically trained, as you would say that, trained in like program. It's up to be conscious. I think where, you know, I'm from or where I grew up at the parts or lived at, right? I think you either have to have a mentor or a dad, right? Or a mom, a family members that role models, right? Right? So the role models, you need a positive role model for those type of things like that. I think it's you have to have something special for you to not get influenced or want to follow or want to be like, you know, those things you see in your neighborhood, right? You choosing for yourself, right? I don't want to be in a gang, right? I don't want to be in a gang. You know, I'm cool with everybody, it's fine, but I don't want to be in that. You know, I'm not there's a lot of followers, right? And also too, I'm gonna do what I want, but I think it's in that individual. Either you're gonna have a role model, or it's that individual that just have that it factor and something in him to say, I don't care what y'all on, this is what I'm gonna do.
And that's so when you're saying, I don't care what you're all on, what I'm gonna do, is you're basically training your conscious mind, not to be influenced. I love that word you use, influenced by what everyone else is following, right? So let's talk about influencers. Facebook, right? It's an influencer. Instagram, is owned by Facebook, is an influencer, right? WhatsApp, we use it all the time. I mean, I love the app, but you're influencing people by these chats, by these group chats, tribal things. You're only talking with people that you're talking with in your WhatsApp chat. So I believe that a lot of these social media vehicles, besides YouTube, are things that you kind of you follow. You're in your own world, and if you don't make a conscious effort within yourself or have a positive role model that would help you then retrain yourself to make a conscious effort every day. So what I use when I'm talking about my experience of getting out of the subconscious programming to conscious programming, I remember at age 12 is when I first had my real conscious thought, which is very weird. That means I was following whatever my parents said, whatever my teacher said, whatever my friends said. And at 12, I made a conscious effort to be like, I'm going to be an individual. I'm not going to allow people to call me tar baby or black African booty scratcher or, yeah, let's talk about these things. These are all mental health issues because you either buy into that behavior and it just programs you, right? From someone making fun of your culture, making fun of your color, making fun of your history, making fun of how your face looks because your face might be different from someone else. All of these things play a role, right? So
Perfect. Also, too, you know, like you said, social media, but we didn't have social media back then, right? But what was influencing us to say those things, right? TV. TV was pushing that, right? So I'm gonna tell you.
Date myself.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny. So we being real here. So when I was in New Orleans, true story, right? We didn't know. We always thought at that age, right? Because we didn't have the social media, right, and all that stuff to see more. I always thought that, you know, it's funny, not funny, right? The flies on a little African kid face with the dried up food, and they was just showing the villages, right? So literally, and even just dark skin, right? I came to New York City, I was exposed. I remember seeing the guy, he was, you know, speaking in his language, right, to some Africans, and I'm like, I was shocked that they had an African the same color as me. I was like, I couldn't believe, no, I'm serious, I couldn't believe it.
I think a lot of people share that experience. They might not share it like we're sharing it and having a conversation, but I think a lot of people, if they're in their own tribe, if they're from Texas and they never left Texas, South Texas, that's all they know, right? And you're engulfed in that culture, then you go to Chicago or to New York.
And also, too, I want to say, social media, yes, it's doing all those things. But if it wasn't for social media, if I was young in those days and I was on social media platforms, I would have known that there was more than that I seen on TV, right? There's good and bad. It's all about what you want to take in, about what you want to ingest, right? Is that a thing? Is that a right?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to keep the anchor around what to actively be able to do, like Yao said, to be able to make conscious decisions and know that those conscious decisions are coming from as unbiased of a base as possible, or at least those conscious decisions are coming from a source of role models or influences that truly have good intentions. Because a lot of these companies out there, we don't have to name any names, or even people, they can influence you, but there's bad intentions behind those influences. So I wanted to keep the anchor around, like you said, what exactly to do to be able to, you know, how you be able to, like you said, how you be able to identify how is somebody, if someone has no instructions, what's the first step you're going to give them to say, all right, here's, and I'm talking, especially in your environment, so like how is someone going to be able to make that switch? Like let's say someone's being influenced by companies with bad intentions. Mm-hmm. How do you pull them out of that and give them that ability to, like Yao said, be present and make conscious decisions, or be able to at least filter the influences that actually have their best intentions for that individual? So how is someone able to create that filter? I think it's a filter. So if Yao saying you got to be present to be able to have that mindset, and you need to be able to make these conscious decisions every day. Every day you're probably giving like hundreds of decisions. So I guess it comes down to like even in regardless of where we're at, third world country, present day, developed country, the hood, anywhere we're at, how do you give someone that filter to be able to know who has the best intentions for them versus the influences that have the negative intentions for them? Filter for influences. Oh shit! Filter.
No, fine.
Filter for influences. Like if IG had a filter, like
filter out bad influences.
Like you said, no,
and
you
only have a lens for good influences. I think Drake expand on that. I have something on that. But expand on that.
So you said, I'm trying to just a brief. You know how I am. You said the influence. You said how do you the filter? Okay, between who's the bad and good.
Good influences or bad influences?
Once again, it's all about what that kid want. If that kid wants to be, or that person wants to, we're gonna go to, if that person want to eat like crap, that person's going to eat like crap. But you're going to have to live in their house with them and be like that coach and be on top of them. It's the same thing as kids, right? It's either that kid want to do good or do bad. It's about finding the person, I think a person that you can, something that that or someone is attracted to. Like it's something about that mentor that they're like, I wanna, it kind of gotta be like.
Okay, I want you to hold your thought. I want to hear your perspective. It's going to be massively different, but technically you're saying that filter is someone who is an influencer because you're saying that they want to be like that person or inspired, but that's exactly the issue. Like, if you're saying that filter is going to be a person who's an influencer, how are they able to tell in those environments that that influencer that they're looking up to has good or bad intentions?
Go ahead. I want to say exposure. And you have to, so it really depends on the environment in that aspect, in my opinion, right? The only way you're really going to guarantee they'll be on the right path or choose the right path is you have to make their environment conducive to getting onto that track. So if they're in an environment that's not conducive, it's going to be very hard for them to find role models.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah,
you see what I'm
but
saying?
This is a hard combo. It should be a hard combo.
So you asked, how would you help that person?
Well, yeah, how would you help their filter?
You got to take them out of that environment. So for instance, where we are right now.
But I'm saying, hold on, I'm talking about in the moment. I want the hard combo. I want the hard challenge.
I'm trying to tell you.
How are you going to take them out the environment?
If I'm contacted with this person, if they're asking for help, right? If they're asking for help, or if they're asking for a role model, you have to get rapport with that person. So I'm talking about bringing back the community. This is what we're doing here in our new studio, right? This place right here is inspiring people. So you take these people out of the hood, you take these people that just came out of juvie or whatever, broken homes, wherever, and you bring them to a space like this that's state of the art. You teach them about technology. You teach them about lifting weights. You teach them about movement. You teach them about
building, creativity.
You teach them about meditation. Right? I think this is real important at a young age. These kids need to meditate. They need to understand how to be still and breathe. You see what I'm saying?
And also too, because also, so like I said before, just like we're saying the same thing. You have to get individuals that they relate to. So that's what I was saying. So we covered that. So just like y'all said, and trust, and it's individuals like us, right? So they're not used to seeing people at our age, like us, our skin color, look like us, could relate, talk like them. I'm looking at this camera. Could relate, talk like them. All of those things. We listen to the same music, right? We can. You have to be relatable to these kids, and you have to. And it's right. It's going to be us. Honestly, it's us. And others too. That join.
I mean, if you look at Dre's shirt, we don't have to really go any further than that. If you show these kids,
you know, as they say.
If you show these kids that you could be more than an athlete, you could be more than a drug dealer, you could be more than a hustler. Hustling in a different lane. We're hustlers. Through COVID.
You
see the progression.
Like Hove says, I'm just a hustler disguised as a rapper.
Do you see what I'm saying? So anybody that's an entrepreneur is a hustler. And these kids, if they're selling drugs or they're in gangs, those are entrepreneurial spirits. Those are entrepreneurial
Wow, great job.
spirits.
Hold on, great, good job. Your background and Dre's background, our background is so different, but at the end of the day, I want to keep this conversation anchored. So that mention on spirit, entrepreneurial spirit, only a true coach, only a true, I think, positive influence can be able to identify the fundamentals and the principles and the spirit behind all the fog. Because somebody else in your position or somebody else in a positive position might just see, oh, this kid's a juvie.
Right.
Let's get rid of people like that.
Right.
But because of that answers, there's two answers to that question early on. Like you need to have, is that person able to identify the core principles of what it means to be maybe human? Spirit is one of those core principles. Spirit, we can go left or right with that, but I wanted to just to commend you on that. And then the second thing was like that, the filter that I mentioned earlier, kind of in the conversation, answered that question. That's why I love having these conversations, by the way, because even off camera, the idea stemmed out of like we're having these conversations anyways as we drive a 1 hour drive to the gym. Like we're having these combos anyways because I love to learn. I got to learn. I didn't have no plugs as a kid, so now I create the plugs. Okay, by asking questions. Okay, but that question about how are you able to create a filter between what's a good influence or what's a bad influence? Yao mentioned meditation, and that technically, and the importance of the youth and anybody actually to be able to create that stillness is a filter. Yeah. That stillness technically is the filter. Even Dre, I mean, you shared your past with me. Like I think maybe you were a thinker. Maybe you had a lot of, I don't know, but maybe just based on how you told me, you always used to think for yourself. Maybe you had opportunities to be still. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's fun. I like that. So I'm naturally a loner. I mean, these guys probably see me go, oh, Dre said no. Like that's my peace. That's my meditation. That's just how I am. Everyone, know me as that kid, right? When they see me, when I go down south, they all know me. People, anywhere else don't know me like that. But if I go down south and you'll hear like, oh, damn, Dre never changed, right? So I think naturally I'm a loner, so I have that still. I like to be by myself, so I have that stillness. I have that meditation, right? That's similar. I don't want to hear stillness. It's stillness. I'm by myself.
I mean, interesting.
So that stillness is yeah. So like you said, the meditation.
I think anything that will help you break your programming, will break that subconscious programming that you see. You have television programming, you have radio programming, you have podcast programming. We're programming where we're giving you positive ideas that will help you be more vital. So we're helping
positive intention, empowering intention,
empowering intentions. I like that.
Empowering intention.
Empowering intentions.
That's what we're stepping with.
So for us, getting that power, all of us have it. We've seen the progression that we've done over the last year. Okay, we're bringing influence, a positive nature to the community, bridging the gap. And my biggest thing is what I would want to leave the audience with is having that power of intention leading into the community is making sure that you have something to anchor on. And that anchor for me is always being better than you were yesterday. You hear me say this all the time. You're given the responsibility, the choice to either heal or destroy your body in a positive manner to optimize your vitality. Yes, that's a lot of words, but what it really means is to be better than you were yesterday, better than you were yesterday. And if you continue to do that, your consciousness is now not leading off of your subconscious. You're consciously thinking of that mantra. With yoga, there's a lot of mantras. Stillness, if you're a boxer, you're in there by yourself. So you're going to find stillness. That's why, kids, you need to have combat, not to combat to hurt people, but it's always better to be a warrior and a gardener than a gardener at war. It's better to be a warrior in the garden. Make sure you prepare yourself to still and just be at peace than to have no preparation and then war breaks out and then you know what happens. You need to be ready. Always be ready. That's something I've always
Wow.
taught myself. You always have to be ready.
Yeah.
Always want to have to be ready. So, I love this. So we're talking about conversation and mindset. We're talking about that anchor of always finding a better filter, so we can only have, or at least majority, determine where our influence is coming from in a positive manner. So where can people in the community find some of these positive reinforcements or power of intention? Where can we find this? Dre, you tell me place. Nick, you tell me some places.
All right, so I want to sum up where we kind of, like we always saying, was that basically sums it up. The key word is exposure.
Bring it back to what Yao said.
You know what I'm saying? Even so with the, I mean, everything we were saying is social media. When I walk out my house, I'm telling you that I see 5 liquor stores. I see a crackhead on the floor. I see these things. I see someone shooting up. I see someone smoking weed or smoking pipes. Or your exposure, you seeing all these things, right? You seeing people with looking bummy, and that's what you're exposed. You're like, okay, well, I guess I don't have to get, because like all those things, like it's, to sum it up, it's exposure. What all 3 of us said, it's just exposure.
What's your one word? I think it was stillness. And be better than you can be every day, right?
Yes.
But I think when I asked you, how can you empower somebody with to improve their filter?
Right.
Maybe you had that 99-cent store. I don't even want to go there.
Right.
Improve their filter.
Right.
Okay. You mentioned meditation, that creates stillness. Dre, you mentioned exposure, right? With me, I want to wrap it up with this, right? Tomorrow, October 10th, is World Mental Health Day. Tomorrow, October 10th, so we're shooting this October 9th. Tomorrow, October 10th, is World Mental Health Day. So obviously, make sure you do the rewind to listen to what Yao's doing. What we're doing. Yao mentioned all the social impact, all the social initiatives we're blessed with the opportunity to work with. And I basically want to kind of add, go with the alley-oop with this. I don't know, I want to ask my team one question, right? They're all talking about, being able to get exposure or find the right role model or find stillness. I'm talking about, being able to get the right filter. But I want to ask you guys, how do you get the motivation to do this every single day? Okay, in a simple way, where's this motivation come from? And I wanted earlier, I mentioned to you, I wanted to go off on this, but I just want to ask you, and ask you guys, where do you get the motivation to be able to do this shit? Okay, to be able to break through whatever programming to be able to break through whatever programming has bad and negative intentions on you. Where's that motivation come from to be able to break whatever negative programming on you, to find role models, to find stillness, to get exposure, to be better every day?
Well, all that's saying is, I want to be, whatever other words, I want to be great. Like at the end of the day, I want to be great. So that's greatness to me, right? For you that's my motivation, is to be great. For whatever, it could be great to, my guys here, it could be great to that teenager, to that next teenager, right? Or to that next generation, help them to succeed in something, right? Something where they'll never forget me. A quick little story was that I was walking with my son, right? Not to get too deep, but there was this guy. I met him at the stretching thing, and we probably talked for maybe like a total of 5 minutes, right? This is years later, probably like 5 years later. He seen me, he was like super hype. Yo, boom, boom, come up to me. Never knew he was paying attention to me, watching me or nothing. Stopped my son, he was like, your father? He was like, this guy changed people, lives. He was like, your father is great. Like, he was just saying that, but I don't know this guy. We just talked for 5 minutes. So, whatever he's seen, during that time, and for my son to hear that, right? To hear that his father is, because whatever, for my son to hear that, right? Like, if someone to tell me, because that's what my drive is to be great, right? Not to be being put in a box or limited, so that's my motivation, right? More than an athlete, right? So basically, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple for me. You want to create your own legacy. I say create your own dynasty. The reason being is because we're all of the same universe and we all are one universe. So you have to command your universe first, self-sovereignty. Make sure that you're better than you were yesterday. So for me, the motivation comes from I want to add to the world's consciousness, right? Whatever you think of, whatever you bring onto the world and you leave your mark, which is your legacy, or if you build legacies, which is a dynasty, which I'm building, that's the motivation. So you can either find it from seeing other people build and then be influenced positively and be encouraged, right, or inspired, or you should find it within yourself. And once I said, 12 years old, that's when I understood what consciousness was, and I said, okay, I want to be better. I want to see the world better. Like Da Vinci says, you want to be the change that you see in the world. So you need to change yourself first. So that's where the motivation comes from. I want to see a big change in the world, but I know it has to start with me. I have to make sure my room is clean. My bed is made. My kids are fed. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm glad. I'm mad. All those energies, right? Yin and yang, you have to all of that. So that's where I get my motivation from. I can say I get it from my father that passed. I can get it from my son that was born, but it really comes down to more of a selfish need of, if I'm being honest, to be better than I was yesterday. Selfish need for me. I need to be better so I can be a better father.
I could run off that. I could run off that, though.
What he just said, right? In order to be great, you have to have some selfishness. Not some. You got to have a lot. I don't want to say the wrong, but
you got to be very.
You got to be very.
It's not negative to me.
You need both. You need selflessness and selfishness.
Yeah, for sure.
But I could run off that. I could run off that. I'm gonna give a real example to wrap it up. Right, World Mental Health Day tomorrow. Right, I'm just gonna give you an inside look at where my motivation comes from. What you said is a perfect alley to what I was thinking about saying. Alley-oop. My message or just conversation is that people with limited exposure, okay, and it could be both at the poorest level of the economic ladder or the richest level of the economic ladder. With limited exposure, you think that there's only one society or one reality. You think whether you're at the top or the bottom, you think that that's the only thing that exists. And experiences I had very early on show me that there's more. You can basically shape reality to however you want it to be.
Sure.
And so many details, but basically I was able to see that the habits that people were taking on, that young kids were taking on for the single parents, I was able to see that the decisions that they made kept them in that reality. Even if it seemed selfless at that moment to help with the small task and whatnot, even though it was selfless, it kept them in that reality in the long term. Okay, I don't want to give a specific example, but it basically kept them, because there's so many, but it kept them, even though they were selfless, they gave everything they had. But if you give everything and nothing, if you give 20, 30 years of nothing, because you're being selfless, you're going to end up with nothing. Okay, so I saw that early on. I was like, wait a minute. All right, there has to be a moment of selfishness to be able to elevate out of this hole.
100%.
Okay, whatever you want to call it. Immigrants did it. Came to America. They make sacrifices. Making sacrifice, in a sense.
You're being selfish.
You're being selfish because you
your
home, your
kids, your wife to come over here to try to make a better.
Yeah, you got to come
to make a better life. Now you gotta.
There's an element early on as a kid. I saw, okay, you got to. I didn't know how to articulate it, but there's an element of selfishness that it takes to try to break out of whatever economic constraints you're in.
Be better.
And then you have a bigger pot because you were selfish on building that pot to give.
It's your legacy.
And early on, I saw that. So
Your legacy.
a lot of people get my motivation twisted. Sometimes it comes off as a passive aggressiveness, but I
Yes, it
want
is.
no, it's not, because I was thinking about it. I had to process this. You know, it's actually just a level of intensity. You know, I think all of us here, you know,
We're all intense.
you know, we're always on. Like engagement is always on. Like we're always driven. Some moments we go from highly driven to extremely driven. So it's not even a passive aggressiveness. It's just I have no choice but to be intense, because if I wasn't intense, I would be in the same spot as I started off in. Like that's the only way, right? That's the only way. Is like there's levels of intensity. Don't let people tell you that being intense is bad, but there's levels of intensity. Sometimes you got to be gentle and intense. And intense kind of rhymes with intent. So at the end of the day, just, you know, for the message for me for World Mental Health Day is have intention.
I like that. So have intention. What would you say?
What did I say? Greatness, exposure.
You said exposure.
Seek exposure. Have
Seek-
intention.
yeah.
Seek exposure.
I like this conversation. You know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say the same thing over and over and over again until you guys get it in your skull. See, I was relaxed. Y'all was relaxed until you get it in your skull. We have the responsibility and the choice to either heal yourself, mental health, right? Mental wellness, mental diet, mental nutrition, however you want to call it. You're feeding yourself. Whatever you see is exposure. You're feeding yourself. I'm looking at something, I'm seeing it. That is my nutrition. And that is called mental nutrition. And if you feed yourself mental nutrition, give me a ding, then you will be better than you were yesterday. Could I guess something? Listen, comment, like, subscribe. We know this was, like New Orleans said, fire.
Give them a call to action. Give them a call to action about the mental mindset pillar. Give them a call to action. Yeah.
Listen, you guys need to just check out what we said check out. Go to www.peakvitalitysolutions.com. Fill out your triage questionnaire. Make sure you fill it out, send it in, and we will personally give you guys something to help optimize your vitality. Let's get into it.
Also,
Before we end it, make sure you check out the podcast on Spotify so you can listen to this.
Yes.
Wait. So you can listen to this more than one time.
On the train,
Mental
on the
nutrition.
plane.
Mental
Come on,
nutrition.
Feed them.
Come
Feed
on,
'em.
man. Come on, man.
End it off, Jay. End it off, Jay.
We done.
Get out of here.
We done. Woo!